The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
You're now about to witness the truth.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. It would help if I cut that on. It is Monday, November 13th, 2017. Thanks so much for joining us. As always, I'd like to begin the show by thanking our patrons, without whom this is not at all possible. You can join the conversation and weigh in on anything that we're discussing, 857-600-0518. You see the headlines, and I have to cover it. Julian Assange. Wikileaks, more than Julian Assange, because they are two different entities. One's a person, one is an organization. But to what extent we could separate one from the other in terms of intention, motivations, and activities, that remains to be seen. But the Atlantic.com had an amazing report today, and I want to bring it up and want to discuss it. I just want to bring it up because I want to read the actual article. A lot of key parts I want to discuss, and it discusses or it outlines secret correspondence between Donald Trump Jr. and WikiLeaks. And so I'm going to go into that in a minute. Also tonight we're going to talk about evangelical support for Roy Moore has gone to a new level, a new level of absurdity, a new level of they don't care what it's like. Nothing matters to them in their faith except for how they can support the Republican Party. I mean, to the extent they would rather, we've actually had people say that they would rather vote for a pedophile than to vote for a Democrat. And, you know, they make that statement as a statement of nobility, but we're going to discuss just how depraved they really are and still have the nerve to call themselves religious folks. So again, 857-600-0518. Again, thanks to our patrons, without whom this is not possible. If you want to become a patron, go to patreon.com/the BPD show. I will be taking questions and comments from our chat rooms, the various chats, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Shout out to everybody on YouTube who's joined in. All right, let's get into the conversation. Enough filibustering. Let's talk about Julian Assange and WikiLeaks in particular, and Donald Trump Jr. So just a brief overview of pretty much everything. It really shows, this article really shows conversation between Donald Trump Jr. and WikiLeaks that took place in on Twitter in their direct messages. Donald Trump Jr. has confirmed this. He released the full exchange to Twitter a few minutes ago. And actually, I think I want to read the full exchange. And then also Julian Assange has not denied this, right? To a certain extent, he's helped confirm it. So I want to put that up front because we have quite a few people who are making it seem as though this is the deep state who wants to defame Julian Assange and all this other stuff. Like people are really they're serious about this. And so I have to put it at the top that both Donald Trump Jr. as well as Julian Assange have confirmed this. Donald Trump Jr. confirmed it by sharing it. Julian Assange indirectly confirmed it by not denying it. So we'll take that as a tacit confirmation. So the context, the actual messaging really shows WikiLeaks almost, I hate to describe it like this, but you ever seen a desperate guy jump into the DMs of a woman and just beg, plead, come on, let me get it, you know, that kind of thing. This is what this entire exchange reminds me of. And I'm not saying that to just throw off on WikiLeaks. I'm not a fan of Julian Assange. Right. I think anybody who's been watching my show, I think about 6 months, maybe a year ago. Almost a year and a half ago, maybe even 2 years ago, it hit me exactly who and what Julian Assange was. Right. So I have not been a big fan of Julian Assange. However, I have been pretty fair with WikiLeaks. because I take them as really just a media outlet that gets leaks. Now, I have, again, a full transparency. I have an issue with Julian Assange because I think he's a megalomaniac who believes more in his ability, believes more, thinks too highly of himself, thinks that he would sit and watch all of America burn for the sake of his ego and for the sake of his personal agenda, not for the sake of radical transparency, right? It's not, and that's the problem. This is where it overlaps Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, because it's the reputation of WikiLeaks that mattered the most. That reputation that superseded Julian Assange, right? This is how we were able to separate WikiLeaks from Julian Assange for so long, because we looked at Julian Assange as the founder, but not necessarily the life force behind WikiLeaks on a day-to-day basis. Besides, he's stuck in the Ecuadorian consulate, right? The Ecuadorian embassy in the UK. So how can he be the day-to-day? I mean, of course, the internet makes that possible, but still, we separated the two because WikiLeaks had a reputation of being unbiased and almost simply, here are the facts. Here are the facts. This is what we found, and we're going to share. Now, that started to crack. That assumption started to crack 2016. Julian Assange was on Fox and Friends, and Fox and Friends directly asked him if he had damaging information on Donald Trump. He said in that interview, yes, I do have information on Donald Trump, but there's no point in releasing it because it's not as salacious as everything else that Donald Trump says on a regular basis. Now, that for me was the first crack in this idea that WikiLeaks was above the fray. Particularly in the terms of radical transparency, because radical transparency says that it's not up to Julian Assange or WikiLeaks to determine whether or not something that Donald Trump has done is worthwhile releasing to the public. Radical transparency says you get it, you release it. Catch and release, catch and release. So that was, about 2 years ago, or I don't know, 2016, sometime before the election, that started to crack. But today, this release from WikiLeaks is pretty bad. This release from Donald Trump Jr. through, let's get the chain of the chain of custody, because I think that's important. Donald Trump Jr. turned these emails over to congressional investigators. So this is not a big, it doesn't even look bad on Donald Trump Jr. to be fair, to be honest with you. It looks like Donald Trump Jr. wasn't really interested, just, indirectly interested in something big maybe, but not in the request of WikiLeaks. So it doesn't look bad on Donald Trump Jr. per se. It does look bad on WikiLeaks. But before I even go to there, to finish the chain of custody, from Donald Trump Jr. to congressional investigators, from congressional investigators, somebody leaked it to the Atlantic. And I'm laughing because of the irony of a leak hurting WikiLeaks. And there is a bit of irony there. You have to admit that is some serious irony. But anyway, and I'm bringing up this Twitter. I want to read the full account, and then we'll discuss the article version. But I think it's worthwhile because it really shines a negative light on WikiLeaks, because they seem really determined to get favors from Donald Trump. And that 100% undermines their credibility as unbiased players. And that's the crux of this thing, right? WikiLeaks depended on their radical transparency, one, and the idea that they're just giving us information, radical information, not anything biased, nothing with a political leaning. But when you see these comments from, when you see these comments and the things that they requested in this Twitter DM, you realize that we can't really say that they were unbiased. And that's the problem. Because once you feel that WikiLeaks is no longer unbiased, well, that really, it doesn't undermine their previous work altogether, but it makes you question. You have to. If you are going to be fair with this thing, you're going to have to ask the questions about WikiLeaks motivations. Absolutely. All right. So let's take a look at a couple of the first things. Here are the damning bits and pieces of this exchange. And it's a little, well, anyway, let me not describe it. Let me read it. So the worst things that are in here are coming from WikiLeaks and leading up to the election. One of the things that they asked was for Donald Trump to contest the election results and to basically undermine the election, the integrity of the election. That's somewhat the other thing. The other thing, I'm just running them off the top of my head before I give you the actual quotes. The other thing was they asked Donald Trump to make Julian Assange, or to request that Australia make Julian Assange the ambassador. Seriously, the ambassador to Washington in Washington, D.C. And then they asked for Donald Trump's tax returns. And that's the one that got me, the request for his tax returns underneath the guise of being transparent. And I'm sorry, actually, the word I'm looking for is unbiased, for the appearance of being unbiased. So anyway, that's the crux. Those are the three main things that make WikiLeaks look bad in this. And I'm sorry, it really is not a good look. All right, so here, let's go through all of them. The ones that I'm reading now are unedited. These are directly from Donald Trump Jr. He copied them and he shared them on Twitter after the Atlantic article started. So this is where it began back in September 20th, 2016. A PAC running anti-Trump site PutinTrump.org is about to launch. The PAC is a recycled pro-Iraq war PAC. We have guessed the password. It is Putin Trump. Well, shame on these guys. If that's your password, that's not. Shame on PutinTrump.org. I mean, that's pretty bad. That's like being your password being 1234. But anyway, I digress. See about for who it is Putin Trump. See about for who is behind it. Any comments? And this is one of the few responses Donald Trump Jr. gave. He said, off the record, I don't know who that is, but I'll ask around. Thanks. And again, I want to emphasize that honestly, I don't see this being super bad for Trump or Trump Jr. because it's more WikiLeaks begging than it is Trump doing anything. All right. So anyway, the second email is the second message came a few days later on October 3rd, 2016, a year ago. Hillary Clinton on Assange. Can't we? Oh, okay. This is where they share the article where Hillary Clinton said, can't we just drone this guy? Remember, I think everybody remembers that. That was a pretty big day. And they said that they wanted to get Trump Jr. to push this. And this is one of the places where he actually did it. He said that they saw it and that they had already did it. The next message, I already did that earlier today. It's amazing what she can get away with, speaking of Hillary Clinton. And then followed up saying, what's behind this Wednesday leak I keep hearing? I'm reading everything. I'm reading everything because people are trying to make it seem as though the Atlantic actually edited this, but really they didn't. I mean, everything so far is like word for word what the Atlantic reported. It's like they got this exact copy from a staffer on the Congressional Investigative Committee, and then they did a report on it, and probably are getting millions of clicks, by the way. It's amazing how much good journalism you can do when people are just feeding you stuff, but I digress. So this is WikiLeaks now writing back to Trump Jr. They did not, to WikiLeaks credit, they did not answer the question, what's behind this Wednesday leak I keep reading about? Trump Jr. came back looking for information about a leak. They didn't reply. But they replied a couple days later with this. Hey, Donald, great to see you and your dad talking about publication. Strongly suggest your dad tweet this link if he mentions us. I.e., you guys can get all your followers digging through the content. There are many great stories there. The press are missing, and we are sure some of your followers will find it. Outsourcing some of their work. By the way, just released Podesta Emails Part 4. They continue. This is October 12th. Hey, Don, we have an unusual idea. Leak us. This is one of the big ones. This is important. Leak us one or more of your father's tax returns. The benefits are this. 1, most of the harm has already been done by the New York Times and preempted by your father, tax write-downs. 2, it's possible that at any moment they could come out through the most biased source, New York Times, MSNBC, who would distort them into the worst possible light. Okay, not necessarily the New York Times. And let's not pretend like the New York Times doesn't have an entire conservative section, but anyway, it helps their narrative. Okay, MSNBC for sure. 3, if we published them, it would dramatically improve our perception of our impartiality. This is the real kicker. That means that the vast amount of stuff that we are publishing about Clinton will have much higher impact because it won't be perceived as coming from a pro-Trump, pro-Russian source, which the Clinton administration campaign is constantly slandering us with. Now, forget about, I'm sure somebody is going to say, somebody who's intentionally obtuse on the liberal side of the equation, they're going to say, see, they're admitting that they're pro-Trump and that they're pro-Russian because of this exchange. No, I'm admitting that I'm claiming that they're pro-Trump for the entirety of this thing. But I don't think that they're using pro-Russian here in quotes, meaning we're pro-Russian. Right. I'm sorry for the radio audience. You absolutely did not see my air quotes there. But here, I got to read this one again because this paragraph speaks volumes. If we publish Donald Trump's tax returns, it will dramatically improve the perception of our impartiality. This is the real kicker. That means that the vast amount of stuff that we're publishing about Clinton will have much higher impact because it won't be perceived as coming from a pro-Trump source, which the Clinton campaign is constantly slandering us with. Well, listen, bitches, this is exactly what you've just done to yourself with this because you're looking for cover. That's what Wikileaks was looking for here. They're looking for cover to say, okay, everything that we publish has been negative Hillary Clinton, and it would help Donald Trump out if we weren't coming off as anti-Hillary Clinton or if we weren't coming off as pro-Trump. So leak us your information because if you leak us your information, it would do more damage to Hillary Clinton than it would do to you. Clearly, that's the negotiating point. Leak us your information, and it would do more damage to Hillary Clinton than it would do to Donald Trump. And if that doesn't show impartial or the lack of impartiality, the fact that they are partial to Donald Trump, the fact that they are biased, well, if that doesn't do it, then here's some more. Let's keep going. It keeps going. You can email them to office@wikileaks.org or use a secure submission system. I'm reading, like I said, again, I'm reading the entire exchange because people are trying to make it seem as though the folks edited it dramatically. All right, let's see. It seems to be all of them. Did I miss one? Unused idea leak. It's a possible any moment. Okay, so there's one more that he did not release. Let me go to his timeline. If he doesn't have it on his timeline, there's the final one that has yeah. The final one is the kicker, and Donald Trump Jr. didn't release that one. That's ironic. He's talking about being transparent, but he didn't. Donald Trump Jr. is talking about being, but no worries. The Atlantic has the final one, and the final one is the best one of them all. Let me just do a quick search. Ambassador. Okay. Here's the final one. Oh, get out of here. Get out of here. All these ads. I hate this. Why do you think I have ad blockers on everything? Trump Jr. did not respond. I'm reading directly from theatlantic.com now. Trump Jr. did not respond to the messages either, but WikiLeaks was undeterred. Hi, Don. Hope you're all doing well. WikiLeaks wrote on December 16th. December 16th, 2016, Donald Trump had already become president-elect. All right? So keep that in your mind. This is the request. Hi, Don. Hope you're doing well. In relation to Mr. Assange, Obama/Clinton placed pressure on Sweden, UK, and Australia, his home country, to illicitly go after Mr. Assange. It would be real easy and helpful for your dad to suggest that Australia appoint Assange ambassador to Washington, D.C. That's a real smart, tough guy and the most, hang on, let me read the rest of it. WikiLeaks even imagined how Trump might put it. That's a real smart, tough guy and the most famous Australian you have. Or something similar. They continue to write, WikiLeaks continue to write to Donald Trump Jr. They won't do it, but it will send the right signals to Australia, UK, and Sweden to start following the law and stop bending it to ingratiate themselves with the Clintons. Look, somebody, first of all, somebody at WikiLeaks is fired, right? They're out the fold. Whoever was not smart enough to carry these conversations all out on Twitter, whoever did that, they need to be off the island like yesterday. That's number one. Number two, even if they're trying to put things in phrases to suggest that they really believe what Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama are doing to Julian Assange is a crime and it's unfair, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that's besides the point, right? We can set that entire thing aside because they're seeking favors from the Trump administration before he was elected, after he's elected, asking to become the ambassador, but even though they know it's not going to happen, but it's going to benefit Julian Assange because it's going to make people start thinking and talking in a different way. I'm sorry, this is 100% showing us that Julian Assange and Wikileaks they have been pro-Trump all along. And here's the thing, somewhere somebody is lying. And I'm sure there's a lot of places, but this is what I mean in particular. They're looking for information on Donald Trump, negative information on Donald Trump, right? That's the whole premise. And they were going to use it to help make them seem more impartial so that it could be damaging to Hillary Clinton, right? So this is not, before I give my other thesis, my other argument, let me drive this home here. I don't know why people are making this argument, but attempting to get his tax returns to appear impartial is not the same as attempting to get his tax returns in order to have radical transparency, right? We have to establish that. It was them trying to ingratiate themselves to the Trump campaign from the very first point of contact on September 20th, 2016. They've been trying to ingratiate themselves to the Trump campaign since before the election, before election night. They started off by giving them the password to a competitor, to someone who was going to a political action group that was going to run negative ads or something. And the reason this matters so much is because 90% of their credibility on the progressive side of the equation has been based on them being this unbiased arbiter of information, and that if they get it, they release it. But again, I have to harken back to this to the interview that Julian Assange did on Fox and Friends when they asked him if he had negative information on Donald Trump, and he said, yes, I do, but it's no point. Matter of fact, I should just pull it up in case people think I'm lying. Oh, Ben, you're lying. Well, no. One thing I don't do is lie, especially not on purpose, not intentionally. I might lie because I'm getting old and forgetting stuff. But Julian Assange, and I'm putting it in the search engine, Fox and Friends, and it's about at the 2-minute mark if my memory serves me right. I'm going to cue it up so that you can hear it for yourself, because it really shows you that two things are true. Number one, they have not engaged in radical transparency this entire time, because radical transparency means if you have it and you can confirm it, release it. Julian Assange says, yes, we have it. We have negative information on Donald Trump, but we're not going to release it because we don't think it's as important as stuff that he says. Let's listen in.
Like WikiLeaks, the problem with the Trump campaign is it's actually hard for us to publish much information about the Republican campaign.
I'm going to run it back so you can hear the question from the host.
Journalist organization like WikiLeaks, the problem with the and then Americans and others can be better informed about who the new power figures are going to be in U.S. politics.
Julian, you just said the Republican campaign. Do you have information about Donald Trump?
We do have some information about the Republican campaign. I mean, from a point of view of investigative journalist organization like WikiLeaks, the problem with the Trump campaign is it's actually hard for us to publish much more controversial material than what comes out of Donald Trump's mouth every second day.
There it is. So that's not radical transparency, ladies and gentlemen. I'm being a filter. That is, I have information and I'm going to curate it, and I'm going to give you what I think is important. That is the exact opposite of radical transparency. In fact, that is what Julian Assange and WikiLeaks got into this ongoing feud with The Intercept and Glenn Greenwald. Because Glenn Greenwald agrees that there should be a modicum of curation, particularly where it involves the safety and the identities of people who do not need to be doxxed, exposed, or if we expose them, their lives could be in danger. WikiLeaks said no, because that's going to undermine the fundamental nature of radical transparency. But then they're holding back information on Donald Trump. So now they haven't lost the idea that they're radically transparent, right? With that one thing doesn't make their radical transparency claim null and void, but it definitely undermines it. And I think anybody reasonable and being fair about it should at least be able to say that much, that once you begin censoring the information and you begin curating the information that you give to us, then it's no longer radically transparent based on your own definition. That's number one. But then now we've been saying it. I've been telling you. We've been saying, I'm actually quoting a movie there. We've been saying it for some time that it seems like everything that the WikiLeaks is doing is to help Donald Trump. And then everybody was saying all along, well, he just doesn't have information, Ben. He just doesn't have information on Donald Trump. Well, yeah, he did. He just said he did. And now we have the why to the what. The what is he didn't release anything negative on Donald Trump. You know, despite the fact that they had negative information on Donald Trump. And if we compare that to what's happening today, we see the why. It's because they wanted to ingratiate themselves with the Trump campaign. And that fundamentally undermines all of this idea of them being unbiased arbiters of information. There's no going back on that. They're begging. They're in the DMs shooting their shot, trying to get everything they can from the Trump administration, from the Trump campaign, and then the Trump administration. Which some people try to argue, well, what else are they supposed to do? They should, no. Julian Assange, as an individual, should be doing that. Trying to get whatever he can to help his case, to help him get out of the trouble that he's got that has found him, right? That's Julian Assange, not WikiLeaks as an organization. WikiLeaks doing that as an organization is beyond the pale. All right, 857-600-0518. All right, let's read some questions from the chat room. I'm sure there's going to be quite a few people disagreeing with me, but it is what it is. He's playing Trump. Some people say he's playing Trump Jr. WikiLeaks is just trolling, but wait, there's more. I don't know. What is WikiLeaks? Why is it written in third person? I mean, well, if you're writing on behalf of an organization, you can't say I and me. But even still, I see what you're saying. We know Julian Ass is the public face. How many other folks are? But this is from Ryan Rankin in YouTube. He said, we know that Julian Assange is the public face. How many other folks are a part of WikiLeaks? I'm asking about people uploading the data, receive, and manning the phones, so to speak. Nerdy Gamer says, no, all Assange has to do is publish something on the Republicans and they'll be vindicated by the other side. I don't know. I don't know if that's the case, because let me address that directly. That's not the case, because, I mean, in what Nerdy is saying, she's saying, I think you're saying in the future, right? I think one of the commenters in YouTube saying is if they publish something negative on Republicans in the future, then they'll be fine with the Democrats. That's fine if you are the type of person who's just kind of a binary and they say, you know, us versus them. Like those people who can look at George W. Bush and say George W. Bush is an ally now. I think those are the people who could look at something from WikiLeaks in the future and say, oh, okay, you published something bad on Republicans, you're good with me. But for me, this undermines their credibility, like in perpetuity. Like we have to honestly evaluate everything that they put out through the lens of what's their angle. And that's okay, right? That's not a huge game changer, except for the people who venerated Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, because some people elevated Julian Assange and WikiLeaks above the political fray. And that part of their credibility is forever lost. You don't get that back. Not after this exchange. Not after begging and pleading to get something from from the Trump administration. Right? And no matter what they tried to, let's see, is there anything in there? See, here's the thing. The last request which is asking the Trump administration to do this favor and to suggest that they become, that Trump suggests that Julian Assange could be the ambassador. That undermines this argument that says that, oh, this is just Julian Assange and WikiLeaks trying to squeeze information out of Trump in order to get them to voluntarily leak something. Listen, folks, I don't know. I don't know what kind of world people live in, but let me tell you something. If you expect if you expect Donald Trump Jr. or Trump, the Trump campaign, or anyone affiliated with them to release something damning to WikiLeaks, and you think that these you know what it is? I got to give the example, man, because I've been hearing about y'all in these DMs on Twitter. Some of y'all dudes out here on Twitter begging for sex. You know, I gotta censor myself. Like begging. It's like you're shooting your shot with, I don't know, Taraji. It's like me shooting my shot with Taraji, saying, baby, listen. If you do this, if you go out with me, then you know I'm gonna whatever. Seriously, you really think that you're gonna shoot your shot through DMs and then the other person on the other end just gonna give you everything that you asked for? You think your game is that tight? Come on. Reading everything that WikiLeaks asked and their justification for why it should be done is as lame as somebody trying to explain, as some dude trying to explain to Taraji, who is, you know, in my age category, she's hot, right? For some of these young bucks out there, I don't know who they, I don't know. I like older women, right? My wife's older than me. So anyway, you know, it's whack. They are not cunning. These email exchanges are not cunning. They come off as legitimate requests of people who are trying to get in favor, ingratiate themselves to the Trump campaign. It does not come off to me at all as someone who thinks that they can actually squeeze a leaked document that's going to be revealing. Then you cannot expect to get something revealing and damning through a front door request. I'm sorry. Unless they really just think Donald Trump and them are dumb, but dumber than I think that they are, because I do think that they're dumb. But the entire email thread shows you that Donald Trump Jr., at least in this exchange with WikiLeaks, was not as dumb as I thought he is. I still think he is. I just think that his alarms went off when he saw it was something from WikiLeaks and decided to keep them at bay, which makes sense. Well, that makes good sense. You should, you know, I have to give him credit where credit is due. This does not look bad on Donald Trump Jr. This looks bad on WikiLeaks. All right, 857-600-0518. Let's see what you all have to say about this. And if nobody wants to talk about that, we'll move on and talk about some of the other stories that I wanted to cover, because the only thing that actually has me worked up more over than Julian Assange and the WikiLeaks is how Christian evangelicals are still to this day, standing behind Roy Moore. But I just think it's fascinating in the story with Julian Assange, because the most important takeaway is simply this. I am not saying that we should reject information from WikiLeaks. Bottom line, I'm not saying that, right? Whatever they get. But what we absolutely have to stop doing is stop elevating them above. See, this is what we do in progressive circles, particularly. I mean, everybody does it, but I don't really care that Republicans do it, because they're going to always do it. And I don't expect more from them. I don't really care so much about centrist neoliberals, because they've shown, too, that they're willing to do it. They have people that they venerate above reproach. Like, there can never be anything wrong with this person. Like, there can never, ever be something wrong with Barack Obama. There can never be something wrong with Hillary Clinton. And they never look at it critically. And then we do it on the progressive sides, but I expect more from progressives, and I most certainly expect more from my audience. There's nobody who should be seen through the lens of being untouchable, or that they are above reproach, like they would never make a mistake, and so that we can trust anything and everything that comes out of their mouth. That should not be the case with Julian Assange any more than it should be the case with me. Question everything that I say. I mean, hell, it could just be a bad night for me and I say something that's wrong or something that's biased, right? Don't trust anyone. Trust but verify, or halfway trust until you verify. Like, I don't even give people the initial. That's not what journalism is. Journalism is like the ultimate skepticism, right? You question everything. And for so long in progressive circles, we have allowed this Julian Assange and WikiLeaks to hold this venerated place in our society. I remember there's a time you couldn't even say anything bad about you. You couldn't even question Julian Assange. Do you remember that? It was less than a year ago. You couldn't even question Julian Assange without people storming your timeline and just, matter of fact, I am curious. I do want to know what, I don't even follow this dude anymore, but I am curious as to what people like Sane Progressive and H.A. Goodman, how they're explaining this away. I would love to see that. But in the meantime, let's shift gears a little bit. All right. Oh, here it is. Oh, no. Let's read this. I'm sorry. I hate to be so petty. If you're the Atlantic citing a bogus intel report with the most hilarious warranty disclaimer ever given is good journalism. That title makes absolutely no sense. But Donald Trump Jr. just confirmed this. Let me be petty. Can I be petty for a minute? Let's go read a couple of oh, wow, this guy is going full Trump. He's selling a book called Debunking the Trump-Russia Myth. All right, good luck with that. But I'm just really here. I'm only on your timeline to read about Atlantic hit piece on WikiLeaks uses Intel warranty disclaimer as evidence. Okay. What kind of moronic imbeciles would believe Russia hacked DNC when Intel reports? Okay, that's still. I'm just here for WikiLeaks, man. Oh, Julian. I finally found another response from Julian. This is so cute. Let's go to Julian Assange. I'm sorry, guys. We're doing this live, like live, as in I'm pulling up these tweets. So earlier I read 3 tweets from Julian Assange, and they were like, whatever. But they, okay, here we go. This is Julian Assange's entire reply. Thanks for your patience. It's okay. I'm tired. You're tired. But here's his reply. He said, I cannot confirm, this is 4 hours ago, I cannot confirm the alleged DMs from Donald Trump Jr. to WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks does not keep such records, and the Atlantic's presentation is edited and clearly does not have the full context. However, those published by the Atlantic show that WikiLeaks this is the second tweet, love its pending publications and ignores those who ask for details. He's pointing to the fact that Donald Trump Jr. asked for information about their upcoming leaks, and WikiLeaks didn't answer it. Well, okay. Cool, right? But that's not what this entire exchange is about, Julian. But that's a point. Score 1 for WikiLeaks. It was rebuffed just like Cambridge Analytica. In both cases, WikiLeaks had publicly teased the publications thousands of people asked them to. WikiLeaks can be very effective at convincing even high-profile people that it is in their interest to promote links to its publications. Okay, WikiLeaks has such chutzpah that it allegedly tried to convince Trump Jr. to leak his father's tax returns and his own Russian lawyer meeting emails. WikiLeaks appears to beguile some people into transparency by convincing them that it's in their interest. See, this is cute, right? But that's bullshit. I'm sorry. You don't have that kind of game, Julian. I was getting ready to be really petty, like to the borderline of being evil, because if he had that type of game, anyway, Julian, you don't have that kind of game. You don't have that kind of game. At least, maybe you do, but whoever wrote these emails and the DMs, they did not present a single piece of information that makes me believe that they can convince somebody to do something against their best interest. Not at all. But he has 1,100 likes. Only 536 retweets. So I'm thinking a lot of people have seen through that bullshit. So anyway, here's the full text. This is Julian Assange talking. The full text of the alleged DMs with context provides a different reading, unsurprisingly. Well, no, it doesn't at all, Julian. Because I read it exactly. The only thing that your boy Trump Jr. did differently was to leave off the request about the ambassadorship. Now, unless Julian Assange is saying that that part never happened, then this doesn't read entirely different at all. But this is the one I want to read. Incredible. This is Julian Assange, his last tweet on it 2 hours ago. Incredible. The Atlantic edited Trump Jr. DM story to reverse its meaning, even removing that the Clinton campaign is constantly slandering us right after pro-Russia. No, it doesn't change everything. Who in the world? I just read for you at the top of the show. I'm sorry, I'm just getting this tweet from Julian Assange. I just read at the top of the show the entire exchange from published by Donald Trump Jr. And then I gave you the context of the Atlantic article. Who in their right mind actually thinks that they have two different contexts? Like it's totally different. All that the Atlantic did was leave off the comments about being anti or pro-Trump and pro-Russia. But that doesn't change the context that they were begging for favors from the Trump campaign in order to appear unbiased and impartial. Man, people are really stretching here. And that's it. That's it in terms of replies from Julian Assange. All right. Somebody said, have I seen the exchange between Chris Matthews and Bill Maher? I'm assuming. No, I haven't seen that. I have to get that. Okay, let's Jesus, I didn't mean to spend this much time on Julian Assange, even though we started 10 minutes late. Let's go to this poll, man. Shifting gears. Let's go to this poll. I've been talking about doing this podcast on being a black Christian in America, and I am going to get around to it because of stuff like this. 37%. 37% of evangelicals in Alabama. I'm tired tonight. I can't really talk straight. 37% of evangelicals in Alabama say that after the allegations of sexual assault by Roy Moore of a 14-year-old girl, they are more likely, hear me clear, they are more likely to vote for him. Only 28% said that they are less likely. 33% said that it makes no difference. They're not. It's nothing. It's nothing. Add insult to injury. 50 pastors, evangelical pastors from Alabama, have signed an open letter saying that they're still supporting Roy Moore and that they believe him to be a man of God who has fought the good fight for family values. Man, and that they're still going to support more. I'm at a loss. I'm at a loss. Good Lord, I am tired tonight, guys. This is quite frankly probably one of my worst presentations. I am at a loss. I'm at a loss of words. If you heard the pain in the voice of, I believe her first name was Bridget, but I know her last name was Nelson. In her interview today, as she described what happened, whether you want to take her at face value or not, it should give you pause to take a step back and reevaluate the entire situation. But instead of taking a step back and reevaluating the entire situation, evangelicals and their pastors are saying that they're more likely to support Roy Moore. Family values. Like, you're concerned for the life of a child. You're concerned about a child being born, but then you're not going to be concerned about them being molested as so long as it doesn't involve a Democrat. I mean, that's some next level fuckery right there. Excuse my language to all the church people who are starting to listen to me now because I keep promoting this podcast that's about religion. I'm not there yet. I won't. If you come to my night show, you're gonna get me talking like this. Just, if you need less profanity, go to the religious podcast that's coming out next week. But that's some next level shit right there. It confirms what I've always known. But it's such an ugly truth that it feels like there's no limit to their depravity. And they clearly are demonstrating that they are more committed to Republican politics than they are committed to their own faith, to their own children. I mean, think about that. Than their own children. And to one of the people in the comment section, they're saying that they're guessing that they don't believe the allegations. There's actually one guy who says even if the allegations are true, they would still vote for Moore. So they're not only, some of them may not believe the allegations, but then there's some of them who believe the allegations and outright say that it makes them more likely to support Moore. And what I'm saying is, even if you don't believe the allegations, why would you not protect your own reputation and the credibility of your platform, your voice, and take a step back to find out the facts? See, you don't have to take the side of the Republicans who are turning on Roy Moore. You do not have to take the side of Roy Moore. You don't have to take the side of Democrats who are like just mopping the floor at this dude. Like, I mean, and you know, it's just part of the political landscape. Democrats are going to do this. You know why? Because if the shoes were reversed, Republicans would do the same damn thing. You don't have to take any of their sides. But what you do not have to do is you do not have to run headlong and take the name of God, take the name of your church, take the name of all the reputation of all of your membership, the reputation of your entire faith, and throw it at the feet of an alleged pedophile. Why? Because at least he's not a Democrat? I mean, God, that's next level. That means that you would, this is, somebody, I keep seeing references to tribalism. I get the tribalism aspect, but it seems like something more than just tribalism. It seems like, you know, tribalism to me, if I can split up something that Brandon Sutton said on my show sometime. He says it all the time. He's saying that no, not Brandon. Go back. The Patrick Blanc, one of our longest supporters. He said that the media is complicit. Is not just complicit with the establishment, they're co-conspirators with the establishment. If I could use that phrasing to show you why I feel like this is more than just standard tribalism, to me, it seemed like tribalism makes you complicit with the problems. But when you go so far as to creating a path of justification for a man's perverted behavior, you're almost a co-conspirator. You are a person who's willing to let you're trying to make it happen, right? You're not just saying this is my side, so I'm going to protect my side. You're saying we have to create a path for this pervert to get out of trouble, and we're willing to throw everything that we have at it. You're no longer just complicit with it. You're a co-conspirator. And to me, that is, I mean, they're willing to let the name of God and the reputation of Christianity be even further sullied than everything that it's done in the past, right? I mean, we're just getting to a point where we can talk about the problems of Christianity in a reasonable way, you know, and debate the problematic nature of the organized religion throughout history and really outline how it was just as murderous as anything else. If you include the Crusades, that it was the justification by for slavery, and it was the underpinnings for white supremacy. It was the religion of the KKK. It's been complicit in Jim Crow and, you know, actively a co-conspirator in Jim Crow. We're just getting to a place where we can parse all that and still sit back and say, you know what, it's me. Sit back and say, I can dissect all that and still be, you know, I am a Christian. That's who I am. That's just what I want to be. Now you're adding on top of that people who are using the name of God and scriptures to justify a pervert, a man who, based on our society, based on our rules, you know, we're not living in the Bible days. We're not living we don't even have to go back to the Bible days to find a time where it was okay for grown men to mess with like 12-year-old women, right? Girls, right? We don't even have to go back that far. But as a society, we have progressed and said that there is an age of consent And now you're using the Bible and you're using your reputation as pastors and your reputations of your congregations, and you're throwing it all at the feet of making a path, all on the altar of making a pathway for your preferred political candidate to beat your Bible. And I was reading Glenn Greenwald's timeline, and he mentioned this, and I think it's worthwhile mentioning. This will be the last thing I'll say on this. Had Roy Moore been accused of messing with a little boy, well, that is the only thing that I think could have made any difference here, right? Because these evangelicals are 100% saying they're totally okay with pedophilia, so long as it's heterosexual pedophilia, right? They are quite okay. And so, but if it was Roy Moore going after, this was Glenn Greenwald, and I had to pause and think about that, right? I had to pause and think about that, because in that vein, it's not so far-fetched for this to be okay for them. It's totally not that far-fetched. We're talking about maybe a few generations ago that it was okay for a 90-year-old man to get a 12-year-old girl. You know, maybe I'm exaggerating. A 40-year-old man. You know, and so as long, it's like, it goes back to this idea in evangelical Christianity, in mainstream Christianity today, that the only real sin that they should be concerned about is whether or not you're gay. Because there's a seamless conflation between pedophilia and homosexuality in Christian circles. So they don't even really see this as pedophilia, right? Not for real, because if they did, they have such a revulsion because they consider everyone who's gay to be like a pedophile in training, right? They really think these twisted things about the LGBTQ community. And so the only people who are really bad aren't the grown men who like little girls. It's the grown men who likes little boys. So it's okay. It's totally okay for a lot of them. They're like, oh, well, you know, she's 14, but she, you know, wait till she turns 16. You know, she's gonna be a killer when she turns 16. And that's a fundamental. This is a fundamental misreading of the Bible. It's an intentional misreading of the Bible. It is one that is politically expedient for conservative politics in the United States. It allows them to ignore economic justice and it allows them to ignore economic morality and try to focus only on sexual morality within the confines of their narrow definition of sexual morality. So it's nothing to it for them to excuse away a grown-ass man putting a 14-year-old girl who listen, can I unleash a little bit of toxic masculinity for a second? I would rip that motherfucker to shreds if he ever got near somebody in my family that age. Hell, if I even found out about that and she ain't even my family, I'd be in jail. Because then I don't care. Listen, it's a shame. Oh my God, did I even have to say this? I have to say this. I don't care if it's straight or gay, hetero or homo, I don't care. Every child should be able to explore their sexuality on their own timeline and on their own terms without any adult interfering with it. The fact that I have to say this to Christians makes me want to be an atheist. But I've been down that road, and I've argued with myself, and I've argued with God, and I argued with the absence of God, and I've had my own dialectic and come to my own conclusions. So that's not actually a question here, but what's a question is here. What the question at hand, rather, is there no end to their depravity? Is there no end? Is there no end? Yes, yeah. I mean, I will address this from Diana. She said the Bible preaches patriarchy. Sorry, but I mean, every aspect, just to be sure here, right? This is not, no one's saying that, I mean, hell, there's rape, there's mass murder in the Bible. I mean, there's a lot of shit in the Bible. There's a lot of stuff that I can never teach my kids until they get old enough to be able to process what it means for the children of Israel to go into Canaan and just wipe out the entire, I mean, kill everybody, the women, the children, the calves, you know. I mean, there's a lot of stuff wrong in the Bible, but there's a lot of stuff wrong with all of humanity up until this point where we're actually able to look back and identify the problematic nature, not only in the Bible, but the problematic nature of society at large. So yeah, the Bible preaches patriarchy most certainly in the Old Testament, without question. There's a lot in the New Testament with Apostle Paul. Apostle Paul has some issues, right? But we can't separate that from the context of society that it grew out of. And if we're going to do that, then we are just now 2,000, quote unquote, 2,000 years. I'm using the quote air symbols to the radio audience. We're just now able to identify patriarchy in every aspect of our society, right? I want to address that because we can't say this as if the Bible is a unique problem, because the Bible is far from being a unique problem. Shit, the Constitution is a unique problem, right? So, but that's besides the point. Setting that aside, it is, where are you in the place of your time and your society? And I'm not arguing relativism here. What I'm arguing is that in the context of our society, children should be able to grow up and explore their sexual identity on their own terms without a man messing with them or a woman messing with them. Whether it's I don't care what version of it. And to have to say that to Christians, people who espouse family values, people who are always concerned, they are announcing to the world that they don't really care if grown men mess with their 14-year-old daughters, so long as it's a man messing with a daughter and not a man messing with their son. I mean, they would get as infuriated about a man messing with their son as I get infuriated about any adult messing with any child, whether it's my child or someone else's child. There is no end to their depravity because they're not really about morals. They're not really about a safer society. They're not really about justice. They're not about any of those things. They are 100% about Republican politics. That is the extent, that is the breadth, the depth, the width of their participation in American society is Republican politics, and all of their morality be damned. All of their arguments of morality be damned. And, you know, damn the religion, right? God damn the religion is basically what they're saying. God damn the faith. God damn all of that, because they're willing to lay it on the altar of Roy Moore because at least he's not a Democrat. And to that I say, every single one of them, I hope they bust hell wide. If you believe in hell, I sure as hell hope those motherfuckers go straight there. Later.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
It's Ben Dixon.
If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.